Greetings, Earthlings. Today we're going to talk about sitting posture. Now, before I get into the video, I just want to emphasize, and I haven't emphasized this up to now, that I'm on a health journey just like many of you guys, and I'm doing my best to present where I'm at and all the best stuff that I've come across. So just know that, occasionally there'll be things I say and you'll find something better, or, if something comes to my attention that information that's better than what I presented, I'll try to update the video or put comments below the video, basically alert you guys somehow either in the description or in the comments that there's updated information. So, but that said, this is my understanding and my best sort of take on this up to now. All right, quick medical disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. If you have any issues, please see a doctor, please consult. I'm just giving you what has worked for me. So, please consult with a physical therapist or doctor if you have any serious issues. Do anything I say at your own risk. All right, so that out of the way, the video is gonna be structured as follows. We're gonna go over primarily two common issues in how people sit. Then we're gonna talk about some different chairs and sitting options. And then we're gonna go over the good stuff. How do you do this properly or better? All right, so, and pardon me if I look at my notes a little bit. So first thing I want to mention is that sitting is bad, period. So in general, so sitting for long periods of time is very bad. I don't recommend you sit unless you have to. So for example, if you have very heavy bags or you have a very long journey or you're just very tired, maybe you've been moving or standing for quite a bit and it's nice to take a break and sit. So there's nothing inherently wrong with sitting if you're adding variety to movement. Now, or especially if you have health issues, you're dizzy, right? So you don't want to just stand or move because you're going to avoid sitting like fire. But just know that a lot of us, we spend, as you well know, in front of a computer, at a desk, in school, at work, whatever, we spend hours and hours sitting. So that out of the way, there really is no good way to sit for a very long period of time. But if you're gonna sit, we'll discuss, how to do things properly. All right, so let's go over two common bad postures with sitting. So the first one is what I call the traditional one. So the traditional one is just gonna be your regular slouch. So this is gonna be, if you watch the standing posture video, my hips are gonna be doing a posterior tilt, so it's gonna sink this way, and my shoulders and neck, it's gonna go this way. So think of it like a letter C. So I'm gonna be essentially slouching like this, right? Now, maybe my head's up, my head need not be, if I'm really tired, maybe I've dropped my head. Maybe my head's looking up, if I'm on a computer, maybe my head's up like this. Or if I'm just tired, I could be reading like this, or like looking at a cell phone, whatever. So that's your traditional bad posture. I usually associate it with either like if you're very old or you're very tired, you had a long day and you just sort of like give out and okay. So that's usually a posterior pelvic tilt and a hunch. Now, a lot of us know not to do that, so I'm not going to really dwell on that. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, I've been on my own health journey, and so what I thought was the right thing to do, and what a lot of people do they overcorrect. So now you get the reverse problem. Now you get anterior pelvic tilt and what I call computer neck. So what happens is, instead of slouching, now we're like, oh, we don't want to slouch this way and make this letter C. So let's be super straight. So at first we kind of get it right and we're like this, but then as we're working on a computer or something, we start to lean forward, and this is kind of hard because I'm unsupported. So what we do, maybe like we scoot the chair even more back, and now our back goes this way. So now we have a backwards letter C. So our back is going like this, but excessively, right? So now it's kind of like this, and maybe your head's forward looking at a computer. So it could be down, but I know for myself, oftentimes, I thought this was good posture for way too long. So I would be like this with like my butt really far out and an excessive arch going the other way. And my board has fallen because of poor posture. All right, so that's a very important point. Now, here is a really big trap that I find a lot of people fall into, literally. which is the chair. So I've seen this especially like in the New York subway, but it could be wherever. It could be in school, whatever. The thing is, most chairs are just terrible. They're not well designed. So the thing I'm sitting on now is just like a really simple chair. And actually, it's probably better than like 90% of the chairs out there. It's flat. It allows me to move. I can adjust my position pretty well. It's not too short. It's not too tall. But let me show you guys kind of like a more common chair that's not very good. So this chair right here is, I have these chairs in my house and honestly they suck. All right, so here's why they suck. So I don't know if you guys, hopefully you can tell. This slant goes backwards, so it's angled a little bit this way. It's not completely flat. So if I were to sit in this chair, it's really hard for me to stay upright. The backwards tilt of the bottom causes me to do this. Now my back is supported here, but what's gonna end up happening is it kind of like forces me to do this posterior tilt this way. So I kind of, instead of staying like nice and straight, I kind of like, whoop, I kind of crunch in. And you get this traditional, remember in that first case where we said bad posture, you get this traditional sort of like crunched in feeling. Like you could try to fight it, but it's not very great. The only way you can sit well in this chair is perhaps sitting at the very tip of it, or if you really kind of scoot your butt back and get into the back of the chair and try to maintain this straightness without letting your hips roll under you. So, and in the subway and like on a bus, a lot of public transportation, just even school desks, work desks, a lot of them, if you're trying to sit fully into a chair, like the old New York subway seats, those like orange and yellow seats, if you sit back into it, it's almost shaped like to eat you up. So you are literally gonna fall into it like this. It's really hard to maintain good posture. So when I'm on like those really crappy chairs, what I try to do is actually not sit in all the way. I'll sit kind of halfway on or even like close to the edge of the chair. So let me just tilt this a little down. So I'll sit, like if this is your whole chair, I'm gonna scoot up a little bit, and I'm gonna have my feet nice and, not like this, but nice, like a nice base. I mean, if there's a lot of people, then you know, you don't wanna splay your legs out. So then you would have to do this, but I get a nice base, so I'm not working too hard and slouching here. So this is really comfortable, pretty wide, nice and wide. Even your hands can help support your spine, so your whole weight is not just on your spine. And from the side, notice my back, it's not this way. It's not overly exaggerated. It's just straight. It's going up and down straight. Everything is nice and stacked. The head, the neck, everything, like all the vertebrae, you should almost be able to draw a line. Now, the human body has a little bit of a natural curve, but overall it should be fairly straight. Like you don't want to completely straighten it and stiffen it, but this should be pretty good. So that on the board, that's what I have termed good posture, and by that I just mean the red, it's not stiff, you just want to have it sort of straight. Now let's kind of do a little bit of an aside on to talk about chairs. So like I said, we have different shapes. You can have different height chairs, different firmnesses. So let me give you guys an example. So here is a piano bench, and this little wheel allows you to adjust the height, which is pretty convenient, and most chairs, a lot of chairs don't have that. So if you're, let's say, playing the piano or whatever, it's nice if your chair has an adjustable height, so your legs aren't just like drooping down, because if they're drooping down, they're gonna cause your hips to go this way. And if they're too high up, you're gonna be doing that posterior tilt. So you want them firmly planted, and maybe not even sit all the way back, because this has no back support. So I want my toes planted. So I'm gonna sit maybe halfway onto the chair. So that's, and what I like about something like this is, and again, I don't recommend you use this as your daily chair, but it's fairly firm, but yet it's not so firm that, well actually I recommend firm chairs, but it has a little bit of softness, so it's not super uncomfortable, because if things are actually too firm, then you're gonna sink in. So it has just enough softness to feel comfortable, but it's firm enough such that you don't just fall into it. Now this is a chair that I use. I don't think this is the world's greatest chair. There's far better chairs, but this is a pretty simple chair. It does the trick. It's just like a cheap plastic, hard plastic chair. It's a easy, simple swivel chair. It has an adjustable height, so you can do that. And then what I do, like a little thing I'll do, is sometimes if I've been sitting for a while, I mean, aside from standing and getting up, I might just put my hands and just let my torso hang to decompress my spine like this. So that's a nice little tip if you've been sitting for a while. So, and also you can also get a little bit of like a lean back if you want. Here's what I want to say about that. So we talked about the two common bad postures, which are the C shape and the backward C shape. So you don't want to go this way, you don't want to over exaggerate it, especially leaning forward like that. But the thing is, like we said, sitting is not a great option. So if you could lean back, that's actually even better. So I wrote time on the board. What is time about? So time is a concept that I like to think about, because the better your sitting posture is, chances are the longer you can sit in that posture. So if I assume a really bad posture like this, after about a minute or two, I'll feel very uncomfortable, or even like 20 seconds. So if I have a pretty good posture, maybe I could go 30 minutes, an hour. Not that you should be going long periods, but if you have to, if you feel like you're getting tired after 5 versus 10 minutes, that amount of time can be an indication of how good your sitting posture is. So pay attention to the time it takes for you to get tired. So as I said, the traditional one, if you're like falling asleep, it can actually hold out a pretty long time, but it's not going to feel great. This one, you're probably going to have lower back problems, as I've had from sitting that way, because your lower back is literally getting crunched over here. Now, the good one is fine, but if you're just sitting all the time, your butt, everything is stagnant. You're not moving. So there are better options. So what are some better options? And I'll make sure to look at the descriptions. The description in the video. There'll be plenty of great articles that will give you guys a lot more information. So one better thing you can do is to have her, like, if you're reclining backwards, then just math and physics will tell you that the weight of your body is not pressing as much down on your spine. So that might be a good tip if you can recline back. But remember, you're not just sitting back into the chair. The actual back has to be able to recline. Now, there's standing desks. There are some people that like to sit on like stability balls. The stability ball can be fun. For a little bit it can be a nice thing to try, but I found that I don't really like that long term. Standing desks can be great, but the problem with them is, now if you're standing for 8 hours, it might be preferable to sitting, but if you're standing for 8 hours, then that creates its own problems where now you're on your feet for a long time, your legs might start to hurt, and you gotta move. So essentially what you want to do is have variety. So you might want to sort of go back and forth between a standing desk and sitting, and even if you're sitting, sometimes, I know this is not, don't take my example, but the part I want you to get out of it is variety. So if I'm sitting on a chair, maybe I'll do some sort of like funky posture. Like I'll put my leg here or something, and then like I might sit like that for 30 seconds. I might put this leg. I might even get into like a deep squat or something. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll get up. So even if I'm sitting nice, like proper posture, I'm not going to try to sit like that for too long of a time. So just so we're clear, in terms of like regular good posture sitting, having your arms at a nice level is also important. If your arms are like your work environment is too high or too low, that's not great. So like this desk is pretty good, pretty, oh, my board has died again. So this is a pretty good height for my arms. If it's too high, like I said, too low, not great. Also, your neck, your gaze, so unfortunately our body's smart enough to adjust, so even if my neck's crooked, my gaze is still gonna go forward. So that just, your eyeballs won't tell you what's going on. So you wanna make sure it's stacked. So if your computer is down here, that's gonna force your head to do this. If your computer's too high, you're gonna have to go like this. So you might wanna make sure your screen is at a nice angle or whatever you're looking at, so you have very minimal neck, head movement from like a nice posture. We talked about feet, spine. So yeah, don't underestimate, like your arms are pretty heavy, so if you're resting them, that takes a lot of weight off of your spine, and that's why I like that chair too that I showed you guys, the swivelly black one. All right, so now let's talk about the floor. So the winner, and let me get this out of the way. So the winner for the floor posture, and I say winner, I mean loser, is probably the bow-legged posture. I don't even know if I could do this, but let's take a look. All right. So some people are bow legs and they could sit with their legs like out this way. I can't really do that. I find that insane, but they can physiologically do that anyway. That's still very bad for you. So you don't want to sit that way. So again, there are no great floor sitting postures for long periods of time, but the two I'd say are probably the best from what I've encountered are sitting on your shins. So, which would look something like this. So, and the back, you're not on your toes, you're this way. So, you'll be like this. Now, there's a plus and a minus. Now, the plus is that your spine feels amazing because it's nice and aligned naturally. It like falls into this nice groove over here, and you're gonna have a really good time breathing. So that's why you might see this in a lot of yoga, if you like Kundalini yoga or stuff like that. So that's sitting on on your sort of shins, on your legs this way. Now, and you can play with like, should you have your knees a little wider, find something that works well for you. The problem with this, what I really don't really like is, again, you're sitting on your legs, so that's not great. And if you have knee problems, like I've had an old knee problem, so, and I'll include links, you might want to put some sort of towels or stuff to improve this. So this might work. So that's fine, especially in terms of breathing. Like I said, on the breathing side is great, on the knee end, not so great. Then there's the popular just cross-legged. So I'd say this is probably the easiest, best one all around, but I don't like it as much for your spine. So sideways, you can try to be nice and upright, but I find your lower back doesn't fall into as nice of a groove as it did when we were sitting like this. Because now I feel like it almost has like a natural buoyancy. It's really nice. So on your legs and knees, this feels pretty good. I'll include make sure to check out the description. There's some really cool links on how to sit so your legs don't fall asleep right away. And then there's variations. So if I have to sit on the floor, like if you're a kid listening to a gym teacher or something, like I said, sitting is not great, but maybe sit like this. You might even change for a little bit, cross-legged for a bit. That could be fine. If you're getting tired, maybe, I don't know, switch it up. This way, you can, this way, go to this one. The key is variety. Even like, so actually one of the best, I encourage you guys to do your own research, but even a deep squat, this can feel really weird, but if you have the mobility, Now, key point here is I'm not on the balls of my feet this way. My heels are planted. So most people can't get that deep and they kind of have to do this. But if you can sink all the way down, you can actually stay like this for several minutes pretty easily. So, and this is actually not as bad for you as it looks. I mean, like monkeys do this all the time. So check this out, see if it works for you. And just as, like I said, as an additional posture in your toolkit, variety is the key. So some of these postures, even if they don't look really great, if you mix it up, it can be better. So let me make this point, which is, many of you know that I have a lot of math videos on my channel, and so we can think about posture as kind of like a mathematical equation. So you instead of optimizing for like what's the best posture, what we really want to do is what combination of postures is the best. So while posture 1 might let you sit in it for like 1 hour versus posture 2 is only 30 minutes, you might want to do posture 1 for only like 10 minutes, mix it up with posture 2 for 5 minutes. The idea is we want to optimize your transitions from posture to posture. So yeah, pick a great posture, but then realize you want to optimize with the variety. So it's not a simple, mathematical optimization of just pick the best posture, because you're still missing out on improvements, right? Hopefully that made it clear. So the world's greatest posture won't allow you to sit in it forever. So I'll say that. Now, I want to mention this point, which is, if I'm actually, so this is like, so for the bonus part, make sure to move. I think I've emphasized that in the video. But let's say I'm actually in like the subway. I have to sit for, 30 minutes or an hour. These are like silly little things, but they really help. So instead of just, even if I have a pretty good posture, so like I'm pretty upright, I'm not gonna be sitting completely still. I might be like going like this with my legs just to get some blood pumping, some movement. I might even like occasionally do a little bit like with breathing, like a few adjustments. I'm not just gonna sit there rigid in a perfect posture, because if you recall from the previous video, no posture is perfect if you're like super rigid and still in it for a long period of time. So, if you're sitting, you're basically cutting off the circulation in your butt. It can create a lot of issues, like even like prostate issues or something, because you lack the circulation in that groin and pelvic area. That's not great for you. So, try to pick your butt up every now and then. Like if you can't, at least maybe, try to like pick up one butt cheek at a time or something. Just try to get some blood flow. You don't want to just have that pressure on all the time. Like anything you can do, even if it's just like a little bit of an adjustment, that's great. So if you're sitting, let's say I'm like reading a book, I might be doing this with my feet, or even, we talked about like not slouching and stuff, but I might even slouch for like 20 seconds just to mix it up and then come right back. I'm not going to be in the slouch position for a long period of time, but I'm a fan of variety, and I haven't seen that talked about enough. So I'd say stick, 70 to 80% to like your great postures, but it's okay to throw in a few wacky postures as long as they're not too terrible and you're not staying in them a long period of time. So actually the best is shuffle between many good postures and move if you can, right? So if I'm sitting like this, that's fine. Maybe I'll even lean back for a minute, but then I'll come right back. I think I've gotten the point across. So hopefully this gives you a few things to think about. And if you have to just pick, one posture, I'd probably just, sit this way. If there's no backrest. If there is a backrest, maybe push into it, but make sure your hips don't sink, that everything is nice and straight. And hopefully that gives you guys some stuff. So we're gonna continue the posture series, and we'll see. We might have walking, sleeping, whatever. We'll stay tuned. All right, see you guys.